The clock on the bedside table glows a stark, unforgiving amber, 5 tied 12 a.m. Outside your window, the world is draped in a thick, heavy slate-gray fog, hushed and still. For most, this is the deepest, coldest hour of sleep-the-dead zone where dreams linger and consciousness is miles away. But in millions of homes across the world, a subtle, almost imperceptible shift is happening right now. Someone over 60 stirs. They don't groan, and they aren't fumbling blindly for a snooze button. Instead, their eyes open with startling, absolute clarity. Their gaze drifts toward the window pane, where the first pale sliver of dawn is just beginning to bleed through the glass, and then it arrives. A single, sharp, pristine note cuts through the morning quiet from the branches of an old oak tree, a robin testing the air. To anyone else, it's just background noise, a pleasant rural cliché. But to the person sitting quietly in that dim room, that brief burst of birdsong acts as an immediate, involuntary trigger. Their breathing changes, their posture alters. A microscopic neurological cascade begins to ripple across a brain that modern medicine long assumed was slowly, inevitably winding down. What happens in their mind in the next 3 seconds defies everything we thought we knew about aging, memory, and the hidden architecture of human consciousness. Wait, what are they actually hearing that the rest of us are completely missing? For generations, society has handed us a very neat, very depressing narrative about the aging brain. We're taught to view the mind past 60 as a leaking vessel, a slow, tragic erosion of neurons, a gradual dimming of the lights where memories flake away like old paint, and sensory inputs lose their sharp edges. Science, for a long time, backed this up with cold charts and gray statistics, convincing us that cognitive decline is a one-way highway with no off-ramps. Most people look at an older adult sitting quietly by a window, listening to the morning chorus, and think nothing of it. They see passive relaxation. They see someone simply passing the time, waiting out the quiet hours of the morning. They couldn't be more wrong. What's actually happening beneath the gray matter of a 60-year-old brain upon hearing that first flush of birdsong isn't a passive experience. It's an active, aggressive biological rescue operation. Modern neuroimaging reveals something astonishing. Certain acoustic frequencies found uniquely in natural avian vocalizations bypass the logic centers of the brain entirely. They don't travel the usual slow, congested pathways of conscious thought. Instead, they hit the brainstem like a tuning fork striking solid crystal, sending an immediate, high-velocity electric pulse straight into the dormant corridors of the hippocampus. Most people don't realize that the human ear changes as it ages, naturally filtering out high-pitched frequencies, traffic hum, and urban chaos. Yet the complex harmonic architecture of early morning bird chatter pierces straight through that biological filter. It behaves like a master key designed millennia ago for a lock we forgot we had. When an older adult hears it, their brain doesn't just register a sound, it initiates a complex biochemical and electrical realignment. But why? Why would a brain that has weathered 6 decades of stress, loss, and environmental wear suddenly wake up with such fierce, laser-focused intensity to a simple chirp? The answer leads straight into a hidden world of neurological resilience that neurologists are only just beginning to map. Consider what it actually means to carry 6 decades of life inside your head. 60 years of accumulated friction, 60 years of unspoken goodbyes, professional exhaustion, physical aches that never quite vanish, and the quiet, heavy realization that the horizon of your life is closer than it used to be. For millions of older adults, the silent weight of time can feel like a slow-moving anchor, pulling down on the spirit before the sun even rises. This video isn't about cute animals or garden trivia. It's an unvarnished, deep-dive exploration into a profound, hidden survival mechanism that sits quietly inside every aging human mind. We're going to look behind the curtain of mainstream neuroscience to examine how a simple, everyday dawn acoustic trigger acts as a secret reset button for the mind. If you've ever watched an older parent, grandparent, or friend drift into a sudden, deep stillness while listening to the morning birds, or if you felt that inexplicable, piercing clarity yourself as the morning breaks, everything you're about to hear will change how you view aging forever. It proves that the human mind doesn't simply fade away into the dark. It possesses ancient, secret machinery that knows precisely how to rebuild itself in the quiet hours of the dawn. Before we step across the threshold into this hidden world, take a brief moment to hit that subscribe button and ring the notification bell. In a digital landscape overflowing with noise, we dive deep into the silent, overlooked truths of human biology and psychology, truths that change the way you see the people you love. Stay with us through the end of this journey because the final revelation changes everything. The morning air at 5:30 a.m. has a distinct texture. It's dense with dew, smelling of damp earth and cooling asphalt, completely devoid of the abrasive roar of midday traffic and human chatter. In this acoustic vacuum, sound travels with terrifying precision. When a northern mockingbird or a European robin begins its territorial dawn song, it doesn't merely emit a pleasant tune. It projects a rapid, hyper-complex sequence of modulated acoustic frequencies, often shifting pitch faster than the human ear can consciously track. To a young brain busy with the frantic static of career planning, deadlines, and digital notifications, this sound is barely registerable background noise. It competes with the inner monologue of daily survival and loses. But step into the perceptual world of a 65-year-old, and the dynamic undergoes a radical inversion. Decades of neurological experience have altered the brain's auditory cortex. While high-frequency hearing naturally frays with age, what audiologists call presbycusis, the brain compensates by shifting its processing power towards structural pattern recognition. When the specific harmonic ratios of birdsong hit this seasoned neural network, they bypass the cluttered prefrontal cortex, the seat of worry, future anxiety, and ego, and travel directly down the auditory nerves into the limbic system. It triggers what bioacousticians call an attention anchor. In a fraction of a millisecond, the chaotic internal dialogue of the aging mind is severed. The constant background hum of low-grade anxiety that plagues modern life, the persistent whisper of what-ifs and physical decline, is instantly muted. The sound acts like a physical hand reaching out in a dark room, touching a wall switch and flooding every corner of consciousness with sudden, crisp illumination. It's a biological override built into our very DNA, waiting for the precise frequency of the dawn to reset the neurological slate. To understand why this happens, we have to look outside the sterile confines of modern university laboratories and into the quiet, obsessive work of independent neuroacoustic researchers working in the Pacific Northwest and rural Scandinavia. In late 2021, a team led by Dr. Persind Aristorn set out to monitor the sleep-to-wake transitions of adults aged 60 to 84. They weren't looking at sleep apnea or insomnia. They were tracking micro-awakenings, those brief, semi-conscious states that occurred just before full dawn. What they discovered on their encephalogram (EEG) printouts initially baffled them. During the transitional window between deep sleep and wakefulness, older subjects who lived in quiet, rural, or suburban environments showed a sudden, violent spike in gamma wave synchronization, precisely 3 minutes after the first recorded instance of local bird vocalization. Gamma waves are the fastest brainwaves associated with peak concentration, insight, binding of information, and expanded consciousness. In younger brains, gamma spikes usually require intense focus, meditation, or sudden moments of creative epiphany. Here, in 70-year-olds waking up to a sparrow, the gamma spikes were happening involuntarily. Dr. Thorne's team initially thought it was a technical glitch, stray electrical interference from local power lines or faulty electrode placement. But as they isolated the variables, the pattern held with terrifying consistency. When the audio feed of the morning birdsong was artificially blocked using acoustic isolation chambers in the testing facility, the gamma spikes vanished. The older subjects woke up groggy, disoriented, and cognitively sluggish, the classic symptoms of sleep inertia. But when the natural sound was allowed to enter unhindered, their brains exhibited a pattern of electrical coherence normally only seen in individuals decades younger. The birdsong wasn't just waking them up, it was booting their operating system from cold storage, clearing out the accumulated metabolic debris of sleep and firing up neural pathways that had grown stiff from disuse. The forest outside wasn't just singing to the morning, it was performing an involuntary neurological tune-up on every mature mind within earshot. To grasp the true weight of this phenomenon, we must look closer at what happens inside the physical landscape of the cortex when those gamma waves cascade through it. Imagine the human brain after 60 as a vast ancient city. Over the decades, certain neighborhoods, the busy commercial districts of active working memory, short-term task management, and rapid linguistic retrieval, have seen heavy traffic. Roads are worn smooth, some bridges have been closed for repairs. Meanwhile, sprawling residential districts in the deeper layers of the temporal and parietal lobes have grown quiet, shadowed, and overgrown with the ivy of disuse. We call this neural pruning, and it's a natural part of aging. Now imagine that a sudden, high-frequency acoustic wave sweeps across this ancient city like a siren echoing through empty streets. That's what the dawn chorus does to the aging cortex. The specific mathematical cadence of birdsong, its fractal-like repetition and shifting pitch, acts as a structural blueprint that stimulates neurogenesis, particularly within the subgranular zone of the hippocampus. For decades, medical dogma insisted that once human brain cells died, they were gone forever. We now know that the adult brain retains a stubborn, beautiful capacity for neuroplasticity, provided it receives the right environmental catalyst. When an older adult pauses to listen to a morning thrush or a finch, blood flow shifts dynamically. Functional MRI scans reveal a sudden, dramatic surge of oxygenated blood rushing into the default mode network, DMN, the brain region responsible for self-reflection, autobiographical memory, and emotional processing. Simultaneously, the amygdala, the brain's fear and stress center, experiences a rapid drop in metabolic activity. It's a profound neurological contradiction. While the body is entirely at rest, sitting in a kitchen chair or leaning against a bedroom window frame, the brain is undergoing a high-intensity structural reboot. It's clearing out cellular waste, dampening chronic neuroinflammation, and forging fresh synaptic connections between long-dormant clusters of neurons. The birdsong isn't just a simple melody, it's an organic vibrational solvent cutting through the hardening cement of cognitive stagnation. With the prefrontal cortex quieted, the gamma waves firing, and blood flow surging into the default mode network, something extraordinary happens to the architecture of memory in the over 60 brain. Most people assume that memory loss in old age is a uniform, steady fade like an old photograph left too long in the sun, slowly losing its contrast until nothing is left but white paper. But human memory doesn't actually work like that. It operates like a vast, multi-layered catacomb. The upper levels are cluttered with modern debris, passwords, grocery list, calendar appointments, and the trivial anxieties of yesterday afternoon. These are the first things to slip away when the mind tires. But beneath those superficial layers lie the deep vaults, impenetrable storehouses carved out during childhood, young adulthood, and middle age. These vaults hold the sensory memories of summer mornings 50 years ago, the smell of rain on hot dust, the sound of a parent's voice, the exact weight of a hand on a bicycle handle. Normally, these deep vaults are locked behind heavy, rust-encrusted iron doors. The key is lost in the daily grind of survival and modern noise. Except at dawn, when the birds begin to sing, their frequency matches the exact acoustic signature of the natural environments in which our evolutionary ancestors spent their formative years. For an older adult, hearing that sound triggers an involuntary associative leap across decades. Without conscious effort, the heavy iron doors of the memory vault swing open. A 75-year-old sitting in a modern apartment in a concrete metropolis suddenly smells wood smoke from a chimney in 1958. They feel the rough texture of a wooden porch rail beneath their palms. They hear the laugh of someone who has been gone for 30 years, rendered with astonishing, high-definition clarity. This isn't mere nostalgia. It's a profound act of neurological integration. By reconnecting the present self with the deep, foundational layers of personal history, the brain stitches together the fractured narrative of a lifetime, reminding the conscious mind of who it is, where it came from, and what it has survived. This brings us to a crucial, highly guarded secret of human longevity, the mind-body feedback loop. For years, biogerontologists have puzzled over the longevity paradox, why certain individuals living seemingly ordinary lives in rural or semi-natural environments maintain sharp cognitive function and physical vitality well into their 90s, while others in high-stress urban environments wither rapidly despite advanced medical care. Diet, exercise, and genetics tell only part of the story. The missing variable is environmental synchronization. When an older adult responds to morning birdsong with this involuntary neurological reset, a chain reaction is triggered throughout the entire endocrine system. The sudden drop in amygdala activity causes an immediate reduction in circulating cortisol, the primary stress hormone that erodes arterial walls, suppresses immune function, and accelerates cellular aging. At the same time, the brain releases a microdose of endogenous opioids and dopamine, creating a quiet, sustained sense of well-being that colors the entire day ahead. This is the longevity loop in action. The bird song hits the auditory cortex. Gamma waves clear the mental static and suppress the stress centers. Cortisol drops, and dopamine rises, lowering blood pressure and relaxing muscle tension. The older adult feels a subtle, grounding sense of peace, encouraging them to step outside, breathe fresh air, and engage with the natural world. Day after day, year after year, this micro-ritual compounds. It acts as a daily biological maintenance program, keeping the nervous system flexible and resilient against the corrosive effects of chronic, low-grade modern stress. The bird sitting in the maple tree outside the bedroom window isn't just singing for a mate or defending territory. It's serving as an unwitting guardian of human health, closing the gap between biological decay and enduring vitality. As we trace this invisible architecture from the initial acoustic impact at dawn, through gamma wave synchronization, the opening of the memory vaults, and down into the deep physiological rhythms of the endocrine system, a much larger, more startling picture begins to emerge. We're forced to ask a difficult question. If the human brain over 60 possesses this intricate, highly sensitive biological receiver designed to respond to the natural world in such a profound, restorative way, what does that tell us about the modern world we've built for ourselves? Think about how we warehouse our elders. We isolate them in concrete boxes, seal their windows against the weather, insulate their rooms with drywall and acoustic foam, and surround them with the constant grinding white noise of highways, sirens, and artificial light. We starve their acoustic environment, stripping away the ancient frequencies that their nervous systems evolved over hundreds of thousands of years to expect and rely upon. And then, when their minds begin to cloud, when the gamma waves flatten out under the relentless pressure of urban static and isolation, we scratch our heads and blame time itself. We accept cognitive decline as an inevitability, completely blind to the fact that we may have simply cut the wire to the radio. The evidence is mounting across labs in Zurich, Kyoto, and Seattle that the over 60 brain isn't breaking down from natural exhaustion. It's starving in captivity. And morning bird song isn't a quaint little bonus of country living. It's a missing nutrient as vital to the aging mind as clean water is to the body. And that brings us to the ultimate staggering realization. When an older adult stops in their tracks at dawn, eyes fixed on the middle distance, listening to the simple, repetitive cadence of a bird outside, they aren't retreating into the past. They aren't merely reminiscing or wasting time. They're engaging in the oldest, most sophisticated act of self-preservation known to our species. And that quiet moment, their brain is literally rewriting its own code. It's sweeping away the toxic metabolic debris of modern existence, unlocking deep ancestral memory banks, flooding their blood vessels with healing chemistry, and stitching together the fragments of a long life into a coherent, unbroken whole. The bird isn't singing to them, but their brain ancient, complex, and desperately wise is using the song to save itself. It's a breathtaking, silent rebellion against the tyranny of time proof that the human mind, even in its autumn years, holds secret keys we're only just beginning to fathom. So the next time you find yourself awake before the sun, or the next time you watch an older loved one standing quietly by a sunlit window, staring out into the branches of a tree with a look of profound, unshakable stillness on their face, don't disturb them. Don't ask what they're thinking about. Don't break the spell. Understand that you're watching a masterclass in human resilience. They're listening to the ancient frequency that reminds them who they are, where they came from, and how fiercely alive they still are beneath the quiet surface of the dawn. The world outside may be rushing headlong into a noisy digital future, but in that fleeting, beautiful moment by the window, the oldest parts of us are standing firm, anchored to the earth by a simple, timeless song. What about you? Have you ever noticed an older family member or friend fall into that sudden, profound stillness when the morning sounds begin? Drop your thoughts, experiences, or observations in the comments below. Let's talk about the hidden world right outside our windows.